In the fall of 1973, the global engine simply seized up. Millions of drivers found themselves idling in miles-long lines outside gas stations. Factories paused their assembly lines. Inflation spiked. It forces a surprisingly basic question. How exactly did human civilization become so completely tethered to a single black liquid that our entire modern infrastructure collapses the moment we run low? To understand the trap, we have to go back 4,000 years to ancient Mesopotamia. Long before massive drilling rigs, oil was just a mysterious, sticky sludge that naturally seeped up through cracks in the Earth's surface. Driven by simple human curiosity, early civilizations found incredibly practical uses for it. Sumerians realized this thick liquid repelled water, so they coated their wooden boats in it to survive long river journeys. Egyptians eventually adapted it to preserve the bodies of their kings during mummification. The people building these early empires were waterproofing fleets and sealing monuments with a highly effective substance, yet nobody had any concept of where it actually came from or what it was. For the first few millennia of human history, oil remained strictly a local tool for niche physical problems. It was a useful sealant, entirely divorced from the concept of global energy. The reality of where it came from takes us back roughly 300 million years. Despite the popular myth, oil does not come from dinosaurs. It comes from trillions of microscopic marine organisms and algae. When these tiny creatures died, they drifted down and gathered on the ancient ocean floor. Over millions of years, endless layers of sediment buried those biological remains. The immense weight from above generated massive heat and pressure, crushing the organic matter until it transformed into a dense, waxy substance that scientists call kerogen. When the temperature pushes between 60 and 120 degrees Celsius, that kerogen cracks into liquid crude oil. Because oil is lighter than water, it naturally rises through the porous rock over millennia, creeping upward until it gets trapped beneath hard, curved layers of impermeable stone. Fast forward to the mid-19th century. The Industrial Revolution was pushing cities into rapid expansion, and society faced a severe energy bottleneck. The dominant source of indoor lighting, whale oil, was becoming perilously expensive and scarce due to massive overhunting. Precisely when a rapidly modernizing world desperately needed a scalable new energy source to keep growing, a massive reservoir of cooked ancient marine life was sitting silently, just out of reach beneath their feet. The barrier between that subterranean reservoir and human progress was broken in 1859. In Pennsylvania, a retired railroad worker named Edwin Drake proved we didn't have to wait for oil to seep to the surface. He successfully drilled 69 feet down into the earth and pumped the black liquid straight up. Drake's success triggered an immediate frenzy. Rural farmlands were practically overnight overrun by dozens of wooden drilling towers. It was a chaotic black gold rush, marked by wild financial speculation, sudden fortunes, and equally sudden bankruptcies. Rockefeller looked past the high-risk gamble of drilling, identifying that real leverage came from owning the infrastructure that processed and moved the oil. Raw crude straight from the ground was practically useless. Rockefeller focused his capital entirely on refining that crude into clean-burning kerosene for lamps. Simultaneously, he aggressively negotiated exclusive cut-rate deals with the railroads, ensuring only his oil moved cheaply across the country. Rockefeller's Standard Oil systematically proved that whoever dictates the refinement and the transportation of oil dictates the entire market. He took a wild, unpredictable natural resource and locked it into a tightly controlled global corporate empire. By the late 19th century, the oil industry faced a serious threat. The rapid spread of electric lighting was poised to wipe out the demand for kerosene. But just as the market for illumination began to shrink, a completely different technological invention arrived to absorb the surplus: the internal combustion engine. In 1886, a German engineer named Carl Benz built the first successful gasoline-powered vehicle. This established a completely new physical utility for the substance. Rather than just burning it for ambient light, engineers were now injecting refined petroleum into metal cylinders, igniting it, and converting that explosive energy directly into localized mechanical power. A few decades later, Henry Ford implemented the assembly line to mass-produce the Model T. By making cars fast and affordable, Ford democratized the technology, putting millions of gasoline-hungry engines onto the streets in a matter of years. The integration of oil and engine turned petroleum into the primary propellant for human movement, heavy agriculture, and global trade. As global demand skyrocketed, geologists scouring the planet came to a sobering realization. The most massive, world-altering reserves of oil were not located in America or Europe, but buried deep beneath the deserts of the Middle East. Monumental strikes in Iran in 1908 and the massive Dammam No. 7 well in Saudi Arabia in 1938 proved the sheer scale of these fields. The fundamental locus of global economic power was now rapidly and decisively shifting away from the West. The climax arrived in 1960. Recognizing the industrialized world could no longer function without their product, major oil-producing nations like Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Venezuela formed OPEC. They finally understood their absolute leverage over Western industrial survival. OPEC's decision to restrict supply served as a physical demonstration. The ability to close the oil tap was the ability to stall modern civilization. We are left with a stark duality. Oil is a miraculous, incredibly dense source of energy. It gave humanity the immense speed and concentrated power necessary to build the complex, interconnected world we live in today. Yet, by engineering every single facet of our global infrastructure, ranging from global shipping to heavy mechanized agriculture and our daily commuting, to run entirely on a finite resource that took millions of years to form, our greatest engine of progress simultaneously became our inescapable, fatal vulnerability.